Mr. Bizwa Mutale, as well as Mr. Nicholas Piri, who is the human rights activist, as well as Zitukule Consortium Executive Director. Well, just like any other day of the week, we thought of trying to unpack part of the issues that have been trending in the country, as well as the national budget. Straight into that, immediately after a morning boost, I'll be going to be chatting with Mr. Mutale via Zoom. So we can go to a morning boost so that we start on a lighter note.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Boost, and this is Isaac Matsa. I hope you had a great night, and let's do the workout together. So today it's going to be very basic, and if you've noticed, there have been some 25 push-ups going around social media. Some people accepting the challenge. We're going to do 25 push-ups as well, but in our own special way. Let's do a warm-up now. Let's go. We're going to do a warm-up, and then later on we're going to do the push-ups. So let's do a warm-up quickly. A warm-up phase. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you had a great night. Wake up your kids. Let's do it together. Let's do a warm-up, marching. Then we're going to do push-ups. Let's go. Keep going. And back to marching. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. 25 push-ups you're gonna do today. Tell your hubby it's doable. Tell your wife it's doable. Let's go. Easy jumping. Just like that. Stay at it. All right. Okay, I guess your body should be warm by now. Your breathing rate has to change if you did the right way. 25 push-ups. I'm gonna break it down in 5 fives, okay? So let's go. The first push-ups, very easy. You will kneel down, cross your legs, and go down. 5 of them, very easy. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first set. We've got 20 more to go. Let's go. Second push-up. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 15 more to go. That's 10. We're doing a 25 push-up challenge. I'm gonna change now. 5 more. 5, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 20. If you noticed, I did double. 5 more to go. Last 5, then we're done with the push-up. Okay, here you go. 5 only. Go down with the tap. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's the challenge you had today. 25 push-ups, and let's start winding now. March, march, march. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the push-ups. This is Isaac Matcha signing out. I'm gonna see you next time. Thank you.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Welcome back. We are glad that you could join us on the breakfast show. That was a morning boost, as I hope you also follow that so that you can be able to keep fit. It is important that we do that because, as you already know, non-communicable diseases are real and they are really affecting us in as far as addressing health issues is concerned. It's not just about communicable diseases such as COVID-19 or HIV, but we should understand that non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, diabetes are actually real, and it is important that we keep fit, and that's why we bring you that segment. We are going to be zooming the headlines just to get just one or two stories that have been trending in the news, especially at Camnet TV, so that you can also share your thought about what you think about these stories. There's a story that we covered on the issue of education, and that is Mr. Jobix Kalumba was actually talking about the fate of those teachers who were claiming that they were not they were recruited but were not put on payroll. That was under the previous administration. They camped at the Ministry of Education for some time, but they had to eventually abandon that cause. So we followed up that story to its logical conclusion, and Zipporah Mushara brought us this report.
The teaching service has been flooded in the recent years, as it was seen as one of the sectors where one could easily get employed into the civil service. Current data from the Ministry of Education indicates that over 50,000 teachers are currently awaiting government employment. This scenario has brought with it various challenges, including a number of teachers who claim to have been employed by government but not placed on payroll. This group of 3,000 teachers have been calling on government to put them on payroll for over 1 year now, claiming they were legitimately employed. While the Teaching Service Commission has reviewed that about 1,500 from this group of teachers have fake appointment letters, more revelations have come in from the Ministry of Education. In an interview, Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary in charge of Technical Services Dr. Jobix Kalumba says some criminals force signatures of officials at the Ministry of Education in order to dupe the teachers, as some of them are not recognized in the system. He adds that it is not possible to sneak teachers into the system as the process of recruitment is vigorous.
Who allow them to be in the system? Because we have a system of verification of the documents. Before you are employed, before you are placed on the payroll, we must examine whether the results you have are genuine through the Exam Council of Zambia. Are you getting me? All the documents. Maybe the only thing that could be fake is the letter of what appointment, where people have designed fake papers and they forged our signatures. They have scanned our signatures. That is where the danger is. But in terms of maybe certificates, what have you, they may not have a compromise. But again, we don't know. How do you buy your position? Do you really trust your qualifications? So we need to examine all these issues. So let us leave it with the investigative wings to take charge and see the way forward.
The Permanent Secretary has also described the planned recruitment of 30,000 teachers by the new administration in 2022 as historical.
The recruitment of 30,000 teachers in the country. This has never happened in the history of this nation. I have been in education for 30 years now, at various levels of education. I've been DEBS, PO, class teacher, secondary, primary, head teacher. I've never seen such an offer in the history of education. Each teacher from those 30,000 represents 10 family members. Uncles, nephews, brothers, sisters, fathers and mothers. In Africa, it's put it at 20 family members, depending on one teacher. Are you getting me? So multiply 30,000 teachers by 20 family members. Come on, guys. You are talking of 600,000 lives that the government is touching. I mean, this is very appreciated by every well-meaning citizen. This is good. So let us not only look at 30,000. Let us look at the number of family members that are relying on this one teacher. Then multiply by 30,000. Over 1 million people have been saved by this government.
Meanwhile, a check by Camnet TV found that the teachers who claimed they would wait at the Ministry of Education till the minister's arrival on Saturday from France have left the ministry. In a phone interview, one of the teachers says they were addressed by the human resource at the Ministry of Education that they will be engaged once the minister returns.
No, they said no, we are still scrutinizing because others are fake letters, others are genuine letters. Those who are genuine letters, what are you still doing about it? Because it has taken long. We are going to work on that, what and what. So, people are still pushing anyway.
Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast Show, and I'm Patrick Soko. We'll be discussing with you, our dear viewers. You can also send us your comment and views on the program about the stories that we are going to be hearing, so that you can equally contribute and just add your thoughts. And something that is interesting on that story is that component where we saw the permanent secretary saying that people had to go to the extent of forging their signatures in order to get into the system to say they have been given jobs. And this is the matter that has also been recommended by Teachers Union, that the Anti-Corruption Commission, SEC, and other law enforcement wings should investigate to ensure that it is brought to its logical conclusion, because but that kind of anomaly, and where these teachers were even deployed, I think cause for real investigations, because more questions are still not answered as to why and how those teachers found themselves in the system and how they were deployed. But wow, the aspect of being on payroll was the major setback. And we also hear that some of the teachers were part of the program were actually put on payroll upon paying some people. And we have to know who are the people who have been behind that, so that we understand and know how it has been run. So we are going to also take another clip, and that is from Dr. Chitaru Chirufya, who has taken action against the state over his corruption allegations that were slapped on him. And Miriam Kaemba was at the courts and filed in this report.
Almost a year after he was acquitted from the corruption charges that were leveled against him before the Lusaka's Magistrate Court, former Minister of Health Chitaru Chirufya has been prompted to take action against the Anti-Corruption Commission, demanding that he be paid $50 million United States dollars as compensation for unlawful prosecution. Dr. Chirufya, who is Mansa Central Member of Parliament, has written a demand letter to the Commission, giving them a 3-day ultimatum to pay him the said amount and give a public apology, failure to which he will take legal action against them. He says the money demanded is for the damages caused to his reputation, which he built over the years. According to a demand letter written by his lawyer Tutongluwe, he states that the SEC allegedly opted to prosecute him despite knowing that he was innocent. The lawmaker says this can be confirmed by the audio recording allegedly involving SEC officers, which he has handed over to his lawyers. He adds that prior to his arrest, the SEC issued a number of media statements suggesting that he had committed an offense, when in fact not. He explains that the reflection on the malicious statement leveled against him shows that both the Commission and the state, being diligent in their dealings, they would not have caused any damages to him or even attempt to maliciously prosecute him as they did.
So, I wish to inform you that the Anti-Corruption Commission has today arrested Minister of Health, Dr. Chitaru Chirufya. And Dr. Chitaru Chirufya, 47, of House Number 4, Robert Kennedy Close, off Brentwood Avenue in Lusaka, was arrested today, and he has been charged with 4 counts of being in possession of property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. So this is contrary to Section 71, subsection 1 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act.
In 2020, the Magistrate Court acquitted the former minister after ruling that the prosecution brought sufficient evidence against him. On July 16, Dr. Chilufya appeared before a Lusaka magistrate and denied 4 counts of corruption. The prosecution had alleged that the former health minister on 4 separate occasions used money believed to be proceeds of crime to acquire property, shares in tourism firm, and a passenger boat from the United Arab Emirates in the period between December 2016 and January 2018. For now, we wait and see how this issue unfolds. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you. Well, that was an interesting clip from the courts there, Miriam Kaimba. Thank you for that report. I'm joined in the studio by the Zambia Federation of Disability Organizations, ZAFOD Program Manager, and that is Mr. Mishek Mutamba. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for inviting ZAFOD once again, and good morning, viewers.
And as you already know, our dear viewers, Camnet TV is also taking a deliberate approach to ensure that we ensure inclusivity in us as we do our productions and in the news aspect as well as programming. And that's why we want to ensure that each and every stakeholder is given a voice in as far as national matters are concerned. So in this today we are going to be discussing the budget with ZAFOD to understand some of the issues that they feel have been addressed or not addressed. So Mr. Mutamba, first of all, I'll just give you a sweeping statement to just pick on what your general overview in terms of how you interpret the 2022 national budget. Is it disability friendly?
Maybe before I answer that question, we always prefer to disclaimer here, yes, because it's a public platform that ZAFOD is not a political entity. Yes, it's a civil society organization. So here we are talking development. Exactly. Yeah, human development for that matter, national development, and the realization of equal opportunities for all citizens, regardless of their social status and disability in this particular case. Yeah, so and also that ZAFOD is not ZAPID. There's always that confusion. Exactly. ZAPID is an agency, yes, like PACRA. Yeah, so we are a civil society organization. We are specifically called OPDs, Organization for Persons with Disabilities. Yeah, so now coming to your question, Patrick, what's our overall
yes,
view?
And what were you expecting before the budget, and how have you all assessed, especially
I'm looking at the budget right now on my phone. You know how much the world has transformed. Exactly. Now you can walk with a budget in your pocket.
Yes, yeah, that makes it easier to track.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and so I would say overall, the budget is mouth-watering. Yeah, to most citizens in the country. I think my heart goes to retirees personally. Yeah, these are men and women who have saved the country, you know, wholeheartedly. And I think the budget is determined for once to address, to attend to the plight of the hardworking Zambians who have retired. And for me, you know, going into retirement brings a lot of mixed feelings. Exactly. Yeah, you've been enjoying this type of lifestyle that is routine. You know, you are guaranteed of a salary and all that. And now you retire. I don't know, I'm not a civil servant, how much some of them could have invested for retirement, but as we see, most of them don't. So they are looking forward to a package that can continue to sustain them. And they've been waiting, most of them, in vain. And so for the government to make this affirmative action to dismantle and address the areas of retirees is very, very encouraging. So that's the picture of the, that's one area I can pick from the
I won't allow you to go generalizing, because I think I have some issues I want to lead you to. So I would rather now pin you to the aspect of social protection.
Absolutely.
How have you assessed that aspect?
Yeah, of course, again, the government has increased both the allocation itself and the reach, the target. Yeah, I may not remember the actual figures, but there's an increase on both sides, on the number of beneficiaries and on the take home. Yeah, which is quite good. But more specifically, that if there is a person with a disability in the household, then there's an affirmative action or a reasonable accommodation in terms of increasing an amount, I think from 300 to 400, where there is a person with, it says, severe disability. But again, just on that one, Patrick, this is where we always desire that government would consult us. Yeah, because if I had a child in my home with severe disability, then you come to me and say, because you have a child with a severe disability, then we are going to give you more than the other household where there is no child with a disability. You know, by functionality, I can take care of my child, whatever the severity of disability. You understand? Yeah. So that is not a very comprehensive criteria you are using. Yeah. So we look at the functionality or the economic status of the household. Yeah. In as much as we know that disability will compound the challenges of the household. But I think there should be a comprehensive set of parameters that enable us to reach the conclusion that this household, as much as they have a child with a disability, they are also vulnerable. And so this addition of a disability should actually guarantee or qualify them to have an extra, addition to the standard amount that is being paid to the allowance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, in case you're just joining us, I'm talking to the Zambia Federation of Disability Organizations ZAFOD program manager. That is Mr. Meshek Mutamba. Well, we'll just take a short break. We'll be back shortly with our topic of discussion. We are trying to unpack the budget, especially on the aspect of the disability movement.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast, and I'm hosting ZAFOD, and I've been with Mr. Mutamba for a while, and I've been joined by Annette, who is going to also help us in this discussion where we are unpacking the 2022 national budget on the disability aspect. Well, welcome to the program, Annette Soko.
Thank you so much.
We are glad that you could compliment Mr. Mutamba here, this Bemba man. And I want us to also discuss this aspect of the Constituency Development Fund. Mr. Mutamba, you explained to me about the social sector, but now I want you to also give me your reactions to the issue of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, which has also seen an increase in terms of allocation from 1.6 million kwacha to 25.7 million kwacha. But how should persons with disabilities participate, especially that now we have decentralized, not only in terms of institutions, but as well as resources have gone to the communities, these constituencies where your members are, where the persons with disabilities are found. How should they benefit, and just how do you assess this fiscal decentralization as an organization?
Okay. Yeah, so Patrick, let's begin by saying, as a country, are we disability friendly? Yeah, and this is not just for the government of the Republic of Zambia, it's for every Zambian. Are we disability friendly? Because when you look at the Zambian environment, look at the physical infrastructure, okay, look at the attitudes of the people, look at the access to information by persons with disabilities. Yeah, Zambia is not very disability friendly at the moment, if at all. Yeah, and so we are fighting inclusion of persons with disabilities as ZAFOD. That's our national mandate. Yeah, we would like Zambians to become disability friendly, especially our leaders. Okay, I was going through this budget carefully, and you really need a microscope to find the word disability. I found it on inclusive education, and I found it on social protection, cash transfer.
Those two aspects.
Yeah, those two areas. You know, but we are saying, for example, decentralization. Government is giving resources to where the people are. Okay, then we follow those resources with a keen interest to say who are the decision making at that level, who are the decision makers, what is their composition, do we have self-representation of the marginalized groups, who are these marginalized groups? We are talking about women, the youth, and persons with disabilities. Okay, so I think for us as ZAFOD, we would like to see a situation where the New Dawn government begin to be deliberate towards persons with disabilities, the way they are deliberate towards the youth and women. I think almost every sentence that comes from the president's mouth has a youth in it, okay? And it begins to rub on every citizen to begin to appreciate that the youth are a critical partner in development, okay? And it's logical, because the youth belong to the present and to the future. Yeah, if you're talking about Vision 70, maybe you'll be there. I won't be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm really getting old. Yeah, but that future belongs to the youth. And so when the president really shows passion towards the youth, it's logical. But why we want to see the same passion, the same deliberate, awareness that we have a group of citizens who have challenges because they have disabilities. And disabilities bring a set of challenges, including negative attitudes towards them. Negative attitude to a point that they cannot be elected into governance. And if they are not self-representing themselves into governance, they are not closer to the resources. So the decisions that are being made on the utilization of resources will not address their needs.
Exactly.
It's that simple. Yeah.
So, Annette, your thoughts on that? Especially that you also hold the position of elections as a program manager, elections ZAFOD. But because he also talked about the aspect of people not being representing themselves, persons with disabilities, in terms of getting into, let's say, even the same award elections. How are they going to participate when we're having such an inclusive society? Just your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick. I think just like my colleague has alluded to already, one thing we need to realize that persons with disabilities, yes, belong to the larger group of marginalized citizens, but I think within that there is a subset. Because if you are going to have women and you're going to consider women as marginalized groups, just know that persons with disabilities are twice that, because we have women with disabilities, we have youths with disabilities, so they are in every vulnerable group as the larger component of the vulnerable, but also as a subset of that group by virtue of them having disabilities. So as regards the Constituency Development Fund, I would like to look at it as a path that government has taken to empower local communities with development and also with resources to take care of the social sector. So the affirmative action we expect for persons with disabilities is that whatever the CDF is meant to be utilized, can we see a specified allocation for persons with disabilities? And usually as Zafford we advocate for 10% affirmative action. So we expect that if we are going to allocate, for example, bursaries to children, we expect that at least 10% of that should go to children with disabilities, so that they can also access an education, because you and me know that having a disability in Zambia is a very expensive, should I say, undertaking, because you're not only looking at how you can manage your life, you're also looking at how you can go about your environment. Now, that also goes to education. Our education infrastructure, if I can speak from the elections point of view, most of our polling venues we are not accessible for persons with disabilities in the just ended elections.
Exactly.
And you and me know that the majority of the polling venues are schools. So if schools are not accessible, and you're going to talk about inclusive education, the question is, what are you doing for children with disabilities so that they feel a part and parcel of the learning environment? So what we are looking forward to seeing is that with CDF, schools, especially in the area of education, will be made accessible for all learners. And I shouldn't only say for learners with disabilities, for all learners. Other than that, we expect that as the CDF projects start rolling out, we expect affirmative action for, should I say, companies, cooperatives owned by persons with disabilities. Because persons with disabilities can contribute too, but who is going to identify them? We have ward development committees. Can we have deliberate inclusion of persons with disabilities so that at that level they plan on how or they contribute to the planning of the development of their own local societies? So that is what we really expect to see, and much more. But would not want lip service. At the same time, would not want to just be told, or someone to just mention in passing. I call it mentioning in passing what I saw in the budget, just like he told you to say he needed a microscope to look for the word disability. Of course, that I must mention, Mr. Soko, that it comes actually from our engagement with various stakeholders, including the UPND government.
Exactly.
Because if you check from the time the president was inaugurated, or from the time this government came in, I think the budget speech was the first one to actually speak and mention the word disability exclusively like that. But even then, it's being mentioned without clarity. It's hanging. So we are including learners with disabilities. At what percentage? What are we doing for them? Is it learning aids? Okay. Are we improving infrastructure? What are we doing as regards to making education accessible or inclusive for children with disabilities?
Mr. Mtamba, your thoughts on that, especially that she touched on the aspect of education and talking on that aspect of inclusivity?
Yes. So when we talk about inclusion, meaningful inclusion at Zafford, we say it comes with 3 P's: presence, participation, and performance. Okay, and so if you talk about governance, are persons with disabilities present in governance? Are they participating in the governance process, in the decision-making process? Are they performing? Yeah, the answer is almost no. Because if you talk about our current parliament, it's at 0.6% self-representation. Annette and I cannot represent persons with disabilities. We can support their cause. Because I do not know how it is to be on a wheelchair and struggle to get into a toilet with a door that cannot allow a wheelchair to go in there. I do not know how it is to be divorced because you have given birth to a child with a disability. Or how it is to be a person with albinism, okay, and walk about in fear that any time you can be attacked. So I cannot represent persons with disabilities. I can support their cause. So we are saying it's time Zambia began to appreciate what is meaningful inclusion. So when we come to inclusive education, how are we going to ensure as government, as a nation, to include children with disability? Mind you, Patrick, exclusion in Zambia begins when you are born with a disability, because you are considered a curse from God. Okay, and so your parents begin to isolate, to exclude you from public life. You are not provided with human development services, and at the center of it is education. I think even in the budget, education has been underlined as the strongest equalizer of humans. And so if a child with a disability is denied education, they're as good as dead. Yeah, and that's why when you walk through a Zambian town, you hardly see persons with disabilities participating in public life because they have not had their capabilities built. They have not been taken to school to understand the world around them, to participate in public life confidently. Yeah, and so we are saying, like Camnet mentioned, when you talk about CDF, they are seated there at the local government and planning to build a school. I think I've seen quite a number of schools that will be built and finishing the ones that are ongoing. Do we have a person with a disability hat in that committee who will say, wait a minute, who is designing the schools? Are they going to ensure that there are ramps and rails? Are they going to ensure that the toilets for the children are wide enough and inside there are handrails? Will they ensure that the ground of the school is accessible to children with disabilities? Are they going to ensure that teachers deployed to these schools, some of them are trained to handle a mixed class with children with disabilities and learners without disabilities? Will they ensure that there is a braille in the school and other materials that will ensure that children with disabilities learn? Because Zafford does not believe in special schools. We want children to learn from their homes, to have the support of the community when they are young, to go to school and come back to their home, learn together and play together with children without disabilities, so that children begin to appreciate that disabilities, diversities in human, and children with disability can become dignified Zambians who can meaningfully contribute to national development.
That reminds me, Mr. Mutamba, where we have a situation in Zambia where it's up to now still don't allow their children to be exposed. They still hide their children. Exactly. But what interventions, Camnet, do we need to put in place to ensure that we discourage such issues, especially at community level? Because like you say, they are not made to understand how to socialize. How can they socialize even if they grow up? So how can we address that barrier, especially as a country? Okay, thanks, Patrick. Part of the reason children tend to exclude their children, their children with disabilities from public life, is safety. How safe are the children out there? Remember, first of all, they have limitations in how they interact with the environment. And also, we are not new to the fact that children with disabilities are even abused in these communities. They are taken advantage of when members of the public have access to them. So the reason why parents with disabilities hide their children are many, and the biggest one of them is safety. They want their children to be safe. They want to be sure that nobody out there can harm them. Secondly, we have a lot of stigma going on and discrimination. So I think parents with children with disabilities feel they cannot handle their children being marginalized on the basis of their disabilities, and because the children cannot yet or are not yet at a level where they can process it, they would rather keep them away. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of sensitizing those children to say, look, the child that you have is a child like any other. This is an equal citizen of this country. And the only way that we're going to change some of these attitudes that have built up over time and even looking like now they are part of the culture is for us to allow these children to interact with other learners. But as you do that, you have to guarantee that those children are going to be safe. And a school is one such place where the parents first begin by exposing their children to a school environment. And if the school environment has got accepting attitudes towards children with disabilities, there's an inclusive education agenda, and it has an environment which is accessible, the parents are going to feel safe. And once the parents feel comfortable with letting their children out to school, they'll feel comfortable with letting them out there. So it's many steps we need to do, but the first one is the fact that we need to make our environment as safe and acceptable as possible for children with disabilities, and then we can move on now to expecting them to confidently participate in public life. In the previous elections, for example, we have candidates with disabilities who underwent a lot of harassment, a lot of hate speech from their opponents on the basis of their disabilities. Some of them have vowed never to participate again. So for someone to participate in an election, you expect that they're enlightened to a certain level and that they've become, for lack of a better term, immune to some of the comments that members of the public pass, such that they can withstand certain pressure in order for them to stand, all right? But if you see somebody who has given themselves up to
attending or to participating in an election at that level, at a level as high as a council chairperson, and then after an election get so shattered and withdraw and say, I'll never again expose myself to this kind of humiliation, then it shows you how deep the problem is. Because you ask yourself to say, if someone who had such courage prior can actually withdraw, what more somebody who has never even tried to step out? So this is how far these barriers can go, and this is how far self-esteem, the self-esteem of persons with disabilities can be affected. And this is why we are saying, even in the ward development committees, the local authorities should not expect persons with disabilities to step forward and say, hey, can you elect us? Or say, hey, can you include us there? They should actually call on them. It's not that they do not want, and it is not that they are not there, or that if they are given this mandate, they don't have the capacity to deliver. It is because the environment has taught them that they have to exclude themselves from certain endeavors. And as a result of that, they tend to keep out, even no matter how much they want to be involved. So let us begin to reach out. Let us begin to put in place policies which, even when persons with disabilities are not coming forward because they are self-stigmatizing, something within the policies compels them to actually move forward. And when they move forward, they are included, they are given an opportunity to participate, they are given, so when you include them, like he said, it means they are present. They are part and parcel of the process. And believe you me, with persons with disabilities, it only takes one or two that can actually come forward, and you'll see the rest of them. But if you expect them to just come in number like that, you will not see them. So identify the ones that can come forward and lead the way, and you will have everybody else on board. Because as a disability movement, we move together. We do things together.
Thank you. Well, in case you're just joining us, you are watching the Camnet Breakfast, and on the interview we are discussing issues to do with persons with disabilities in the national budget for 2022. And I'm joined by Annette Soko, the elections programs manager for Zaford, as well as Mishek Mutamba, the programs manager for Zaford. Well, you can also contribute in case you want to ask questions or just be part of the conversation in the studio by calling us, or as well as through our social media platforms. You can participate. Well, going on now with our discussion, Mr. Mutamba, we also look at the component of health, which is also critical. I want to find out how your organization has assessed in terms of the health sector in the national budget. Is intervention sufficient to accommodate needs of persons with disabilities?
Yeah, important question, Patrick. Maybe at this point I was just reflecting that maybe we might complain about things that may appear in detail in the yellow book. So what is presented here are block figures, but still we wish that the overall budget could still touch on specifications. Yeah. So we are yet to, I think, take a closer, detailed look at the yellow book, and we hope some of our desires will be shown there. What the budget here is saying is very, very assuring, very progressive, that they will allocate sufficient funds to the procurement of drugs. Okay. Again, we are asking, will that include assistive devices for persons with disabilities? Mind you, to be certified as a person with a disability, you have to pass through a health facility. So it's connected to the health sector, the issue of disability. So will the government include in the breakdown the purchasing of assistive technologies? Then secondly, in Zambia, if you walk in the streets, you see a lot of people we call mad. Most of whom, if they were put on medication, you would hardly tell that they have a psychosocial disability. So the question for me with the disability lens is, will this procurement of drugs include such drugs? Because when you interrogate their families, they will tell you that these drugs are far beyond their reach. Because, by the way, most persons with disabilities are also economically vulnerable, like they are in poverty. So they can hardly afford those. So it is heartening, or it's quite painful when you learn that most of these people we call mad in the streets can actually be given drugs and join in the development discourse of our country. And then the following morning, like we've learned in the recent, experienced in the recent past, you wake up to a shocking revelation of certain procurements by government that do not make logical sense. So we are saying, why do we, and that's why I like the strong comment here on corruption in this presentation, and I hope that the European government will remain consistent to the fight on corruption, so that resources can be liberated to support the vulnerable categories and especially persons with disabilities.
Annette, your thoughts on that?
Okay, and just on that, Patrick, we have seen the president appoint an advisor on COVID-19. Okay, so persons with disabilities are actually very vulnerable to COVID-19. We have learned how COVID-19 is transmitted. I mean, the mouth, the eyes. I mean, if you touch your mouth, your eyes, or your nose after having been exposed to a surface or a person who's got COVID-19. And we know that within a person's disabilities, some of them, the kind of disabilities they have are such that sometimes it's not even easy for them to avoid contact with their body. And sometimes it's not easy for them to have the luxury of saying, okay, there's dirt there, where do I pass? Because maybe where there's even a barrier, or where that's where maybe a wheelchair, for example, can pass. We go on buses, for example, how many of them are accessible? Public buildings. So you find they are touching surfaces that they would not otherwise touch if they did not have disabilities. Now the question is, yes, we've seen an increased allocation, nominal increase in the health sector budget, but in terms of percentages, we are still wondering to say what benefit is it to persons with disabilities as regards to the fight against COVID-19? What efforts are we making to ensure that this vulnerable category of citizens are protected from COVID-19, for example? We've seen that, yes, there will be purchase of drugs, and first of all, we have a history in this country where drugs were purchased and they were substandard. Now, if we are going to have persons with disabilities who are citizens suffering from that, how much more can we expect that their exclusive drugs, especially for rehabilitative purposes, are actually safe? What guarantee do we have that such drugs, first of all, will be sufficient, and secondly, that they will be safe? It's one thing, yes, for the government to commit to the fight against corruption. It's another thing to actually fight corruption. And it's another thing to actually fight all these inequalities. So this is why I like to say, for persons with disabilities, whatever you is a challenge or is a barrier for any citizen, it's twice that much for a person with the disabilities. So from the health sector, even as we go down to implementation, we expect that there will be rehabilitative devices for our brothers and sisters with disabilities. We expect that there will be sufficient rehabilitative medicines, and these medicines and devices, or should I just say interventions in the health sector of persons with disabilities, need to be brought closer to the people. They need to be available at the lowest, or should I say up to the last mile of the health delivery system. We should not have someone with a mental disability having to travel all the way to Chinama to access rehabilitative medication. It should be available in Kawambwa, for example, at a health facility, so that they can access it from there.
Well, I would like to thank you for finding time to be part of the program. Just your winding remarks.
Yeah, winding remarks, Patrick. This is cheaper for the government. What Zafford is advocating for is cheaper for the government. When you include citizens in a meaningful, participation and contribution to national development, logically, it's cheaper for everyone, because then you remove citizens from social security support and you make them productive. Yeah, it's logical. Yeah, and so also we are saying this is not just for the government, it's for everyone, including persons with disability themselves. When opportunities are provided for them in forms of education support, health support, they have to also respond and be part of the drive.
Annette.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is that, Patrick, first of all, access to resources, or should I say power, means access to resources. So we've heard, for example, new district commissioners have been appointed. I'll be excited to see how many of those are persons with disabilities. So let us see persons with disabilities appointed deliberately to positions where they have access to resources. And as these resources are being allocated, as they're being provided for, we do not want to see a mere isolated and unsubstantiated mention of persons with disabilities. We want to see resource allocation specifically speaking to the issues of persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities in this country make up only about 10% of the entire population. We cannot fail to take care of such a small number of people. But we need to remember that having a disability, if you and me do not have disabilities today, it does not mean we're immune to disabilities tomorrow. So let us make the world of persons with disabilities friendly, because we understand that they are human just like us. They did not choose to be in that state. But also, most importantly, because an environment that is accessible for persons with disabilities is an environment that is accessible to everyone. So we all want an accessible environment. Let's make it that way. In terms of resources, we expect that persons with disabilities are going to get a fair share of this budget. We expect 10% affirmative action in terms of social cash transfer. And we should not focus on the severity of the disability, but we should focus on how functional a particular individual is in raising their own resources. And based on that, we should be able to allocate more social cash transfer to them, whether or not they've got a severe disability. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to the program. And we'll take a short breather. We'll be back shortly.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate, and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 07:30 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 09:30 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We celebrate for all you've done, Lord. We give you all the praise. Oh, we testify. We celebrate for all you've done, Lord. We give you all the praise.
Welcome back. Well, we were talking to Zafford, and we were discussing the 2022 national budget as regards to persons with disabilities, and a number of issues came out of that. But now we are going to a political segment, and where we are going to be talking to the Mr. Bizwa Mutare, who was part of the PF mobilization team in as far as the 2021 August 12 general election is concerned. Mr. Mutare is joining us via Zoom. Mr. Mutale, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good morning to the viewers.
Thank you. We are glad that you could find time to talk to us.
I can't see you, but I can see myself. I can't see you.
But I can see you.
But I can't see you. I can hear you.
Yes, if you are hearing me, then we can continue because I can see you.
Okay, let's go on.
Yes, let's continue as the tech works on that issue. Yeah.
Good, let's go.
Yes, so Mr. Mutare, I want to find out, you made a lot of headlines a couple of weeks ago when you informed us of your ambitions as well as your commitment to the party, that you had written to the party on how the rebranding process should go on. I want to find out, Mr. Mutare, have you received a positive feedback regarding the rebranding of the PF since that time you wrote to the MCC regarding the way forward for the party? Have you received any feedback regarding that?
Thank you very much. I think I've received that response very well. The response that came from that is that actually the reaction has followed. The Central Committee definitely will be dissolved soon, and the Secretary General has stepped down, the Chairman has stepped down, and yeah, they have agreed to go to the election. So I think it's a positive to see how PF is moved and so on. It's not a fight, but it was a request that was made. The response is very good.
And Mr. Mutare, I know you are not in the country at the moment, but we have also been treated to a number of issues surrounding the PF. One of them was during the memorial service of the PF founder, and that is the late Michael Sata, where we saw some political cadres coming to endorse a particular candidate in the name of Chishimba Kambwili. And other party officials were not happy about that. But I also want to find out what you make of such maneuvers. Does that reflect a political party that is rebranding itself?
I think that was, in my response, that was out of line, and I need to apologize to the Patriotic Front members, and I want to apologize to senior members of Patriotic Front to what has happened there. Definitely it sent a very wrong signal, and that signal is not a signal that we will be wanting to go with or work with. It was offside and uncalled for. That was not how we should, and we should choose what platform. That platform was a very important platform for Patriotic Front, but not to what has happened. I don't think I would agree with that, and I'll go with that. I just want to apologize to the president of the party and to Central Committee members of the party, and also to the people of Zambia and the members of Patriotic Front.
Well, Mr. Mutare, we also want we are hearing that there are two camps now in the PF. That the other one, that is the one for Mr. Kambwili, the other one that is for the Vice President, Mr. Given Lubinda. And what do you make of these emerging camps, Mr. Mutare? We want to find out. Just your take on that.
I wouldn't agree that they are camps. You know, PF, I think I was asked a question yesterday that PF is in disarray. And also the Vice President says the party is disorganized. We need to reorganize the party. The way the camp should be destroyed, we need to come together as PF members. We need to start working together. Disunity cannot continue as it has. So we need to bring the people together and also work together. This one is putting it that, this is putting it that way. The truth must be faced. We must stop living in denial. As I've said earlier on, this eye business in PF has really gone too far. We need to bring it down to the people. It has to be a drum of the people. This confusion needs to be stopped. And this so-called camps needs to be destroyed. Until we get to the convention, let us go to the convention as vote as members of Patriotic Front. Who is going to take the reign for the day? Not camps. Camps should not be allowed.
And Mr. Mutare, when you talk about going to the election or the convention, to be specific, I want to find out, are you going to float yourself as a presidential candidate so that you can provide a wider choice for the people as regard who is going to lead the Patriotic Front? Definitely I'm going. I'm very much geared, I'm very much ready to do that. In other words, can I change your name and start referring to you as the Patriotic Front Presidential Hopeful?
Definitely.
Well, as a presidential hopeful, Mr. Mutare, I want to... You are laughing.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So, Mr. Mutare, I was trying to... Yes, now that you are a presidential hopeful, these elections, should they be limited to the issue of the presidential candidates, or they should start actually at ward level? Because we also saw some PF officials suggesting that the party should actually also hold elections at various levels as opposed to just focusing on the presidents. Don't you think you should hold elections even at grassroots level? Is the leadership at grassroots level intact, and you are happy with that as well? Give us your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. I need to say that at some level, the grassroots is okay, but the provincial leadership definitely need to go for election. They need to go for election. And I'm going to repeat what I said yesterday, is that if you look at some provinces like Muchinga and other provinces in that region, they did very well, very well. But provinces like Lusaka province definitely is not debatable, need to go for election. And Southern province need to go for election. Western province need to go for election. Northwestern province need to go for election. We need to focus. And I think we were embarrassed. Even the performance that came out of these provinces is not debatable. If we are to put all the provinces to say all of them should go, it would be very unfair. Some provinces have done very well through the difficult challenges that they went through. They did very well. And you look at Mansa district and Muchinga and so on. They did very well that side. But the others, Southern province, I definitely want them to go for election. Eastern need to go for election. Northwestern and Western, these four provinces, and in Lusaka, these five, in Lusaka, definitely need to go for election. We need to change the structure. The district level and the provincial level. If you talk of the constituencies, they are the one that carried the day. And they carried the day in all provinces, and to whatever it we have done, they have worked very hard, the districts. They've tried their best, but at least they couldn't even, they are disappointing. So we need to go for election.
Mr. Mutare, but how do you feel when people are saying the PF has gone for good and you are a presidential hopeful? What goes through your mind when you hear such sentiments?
Thank you very much. I need to say that Patriotic Front members, they are intact and they've got hope in their party. What has happened in PF to lose the election, it was not something that we could celebrate. We never expected this, and we never saw this one coming. It was unknown to the top that we're going to be losing the election. But what it is now for me to say that we are going to bounce back, I am very confident that the PF is coming back. Our manifesto is intact and it has been experienced and delivered. Our challenges, which actually we have been going through, we know them, and we will not repeat them. That's why we are saying we need now to rebrand them, so that we can continue. PF still remains the strongest party, even being it in the opposition right now, remains the strongest party. The history will be made. This party, it will never go down in the history saying that there will always be PF.
Various reports.
I'm a businessman.
Mr. Mutare, various reports that have been released by 9 state actors pertaining to the August 12 elections point to the fact that one of the reasons the Patriotic Front was booted out of office is due to political violence and intolerance. Now, we see some of your members especially exhibiting intolerance amongst themselves, but does that reflect the rebranding process, and do you expect the Zambian people to accept the PF if it continues on that trajectory?
My brother, I'm not going to hide anything. There is a lot of cadreism that has been going on in our Patriotic Front. and that have actually gone out of line, and some of this cadreism has sponsored the cadreism that was there, and this will not go on, and you will have to stop. Definitely have to stop. At some point we need to stop. As I said, this violence and internal violence and the violence against one another, yes, it was there, and you know, when it was being exhibited, it has now spilled into the opposition. They think that's how to run the ruling party prefer. The former opposition, now the ruling party. It seems like that's how we are going to run the politics. That's not how we are going to run the politics. We need to go back to peace and stability. You know, because in politics we can't use violence. Recently in Monze, the youth in Monze, they nearly killed one another through violence because one defended PF and one is UPND, the ruling party today. And that's not how it should be. All the youth are our children. We need to teach them to love one another. We must denounce violence, and it cannot go on like that. Violence cannot bring development in our country. It's embarrassing. Definitely, it's embarrassing.
How do you rate your competitors in the presidential race, and are you confident of taking over the leadership of the PF?
I am very much ready, and I'm not doubting it. Let the people of Zambia make the decision. And as I'm saying, this time is not an I business. We are going as a people of patriotic front to go and choose the leaders. Biswamtai has come out to say that I am ready to take that reign. Now, it is up to the people of Zambia to go and assess, am I ready to take the reign? Am I able to deliver the party for the day? My answer to that, I am saying, I am ready. I want to go and unite the patriotic front. I want to go and bring the deliverable of our manifesto and continue. I want to bring peace and stability. The youth create the real empowerment for the youth, the real empowerment for women and men in our country, revitalizing the challenges that we are facing now, and rebuild our commercial, our corporate entities, the relationship between patriotic fronts and the private corporate sectors, and also I am ready to do that, and I'm geared. We know where we went from. I was in the queue watching, and I was following, I was working with them, but I'm ready to take the helm.
Mr. Mutare, interesting. As we wind up our discussion, Mr. Mutare, I want you to also just give us your thoughts on the 2022 national budget as a presidential candidate for the PF.
2022 budget, look here, I'm still feeling illusion in my head, but I don't see it, materializing. So it's a bit mature for me to comment. This is their first government they have formed, and this is their first budget they have produced. So let's give them time to come down and work on their budget and be able to distribute. We can't comment on the figures. They have got their tabs on their figures, and they need to work on that and see how they can produce. We need to watch for now, not to criticize. We need to watch. You know, they are in power, and we are coming in power. As I always say, if you want to get in power as well, give them a chance, and they also give you a chance, not the critics. We need to wait for that.
Mr. Mutare, we thank you very much. I know you will be a regular, our regular guest on the program, because there are a number of issues we will be discussing pertaining to your political party, which you belong to, the political party you belong to. So, any concluding remarks, Mr. Mutare, before we let you go?
No, thank you very much. I want to call upon unity within the patriotic front. Let's be patient, and let's wait for that day that is going to be announced to go to the convention. And I'm calling all the patriotic front members to remain at peace, so that when we go to the convention, we go as one. And I want to assure you that PF is together. And we are not going to be divided because of the violence or some greedy people that want to destroy the party. The party is one, and the people of Patriotic Front are one members. There's no higher and low members. We are all one members. And this is going to be a party to make history that was in power and just come back into power again. This can only happen at the level where we are now. And I am giving that hope to the Patriotic Front that we are going to come back. We have got a strategy and we have got the mechanism. We need to respect that our party has got a lot to offer. Lastly, what I want to say, Mr. Sofo, is that in our country recently, we have observed a lot of unusual accidents. Children, on the road and so on. It's very scary, and I think it has got to my attention. And I want to request the police department and the Minister of Home Affairs as well to look into it in our roads. The roads are so beautiful, and we do not expect these accidents. There is no potholes in our roads. But the police must go back to manage the road blocks and control the roads and control the motor vehicles and the fitness of the motor vehicles. You've seen in the last 3 weeks, almost every week there are some disasters unacceptable. We saw something yesterday actually that got to me, children dying. That's not what we want to be seeing in our country. The roads are spilling so much blood. I'm calling in for Honorable Jack Mwimbu and the Remy Kajoba, the commissioner, also to look into the road blocks so they can start inspecting the roadworthy of our vehicles on the road and the behavior on the roads. We need to bring back that in our roads. I think it didn't occur well to start losing blood in such a way. It's very, very important. That's what I should do, bring that to the attention of our minister and our IG.
Mr. Mutare, we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll go for a short break. We'll be back shortly as we discuss other issues with Zitukule Consortium Executive Director Nicholas Piri. Stay tuned.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 0730 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 0930 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. Well, we are glad that you could still stay with us. I was talking to the PF presidential hopeful, Mr. Bizwa Mutare, who was just saying the number of issues pertaining to the Patriotic Front. Well, that is gone now. I'm being joined by Mr. Nicholas Piri, who is coming from Zitukule Consortium as the executive director. He's also a human rights activist. He's also a governance activist. He wears so many hats, and we're going to be having a friendly conversation regarding a number of issues that have been happening in the country, and including that the aspect of human rights, and considering that we are shifting from a different administration to another one, where Mr. Piri will help us just to analyze things that should be, the new administration should do better, especially that they have taken the mantle and they were criticizing the previous government. Now, Mr. Piri, welcome to the program.
Thank you, comrade, and good morning, our esteemed viewers. It's a privilege and pleasure to be here. You know, this is my first time to be live on Camnet. I know I've featured on your news, but to be personally here is my first time, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Considering the fact that you're even coming here on the program for the first time, I'll also give you the privilege to just give us just a brief professional background in terms of who is Nicholas Piri in the civil society movement.
Well, not so easy to describe oneself, so allow me not to respond by describing myself, but maybe I just talk a little bit about the organization I work for, Zitukule Consortium.
Exactly.
So this is a human rights network. It's a collection of several other organizations, and our focus really is the promotion of human rights, educating citizens on human rights, but also helping to hold those in power to account, questioning some of their actions, commending where they have done well, and taking appropriate legal actions against those in power when we think that they are overstepping what is provided for, because remember that power is not absolute, and power should be checked. Any power that is not checked becomes a menace to society. So that is about Zitukule. I have been, involved in this human rights work and governance promotion, and sometimes we have stepped on the toes of a few people. But I mean, for a person like me, that is not a surprise. It's in my work, it's not uncommon that you are going to step on the toes of those in power, especially if you speak truth to power. And also, it is not uncommon to sometimes put your life and that of the family and maybe some of your associates in danger. And we've been through all that, but it doesn't surprise us. We are not hateful, because that is a profession we chose, that is our calling, and we want to remain faithful to our calling.
Mr. Piri, now that you mentioned the aspect of how you provide checks and balances to the government, I know this government won't be exception in terms of you providing checks and balances, and you have started doing that already. I want to find out, what was we understand you were involved in the issue of the art temples, and I want you. I want to delve into the history of that story. I think you have labored on various media platforms, but I want just you to connect how that human rights story compelled you to leave the country, but. Now you are back in the country now. What sort of Zambia do you want to see as far as upholding the rights of citizens is concerned?
Yeah.
Just touch a bit brief on that as well.
So first of all, let me make it very clear, comrade, on your platform that there are a lot of things we as citizens take for granted, including myself. There are things I took for granted until I realized that when people say, this peace you enjoy can easily be lost, it's so fragile, I realized that it was not just a saying, it's not just a cliche, it's not just grammar, it is reality. Zambia has been home to a lot of friends from the DRC, from the Rwanda, from the Burundi, from different countries, and we even make fun of them. I don't think there are many of us that really appreciate and understand what our friends are going through and what made them flee their own country. So like you rightly said, yes, I found myself in circumstances where I had, against all will and wish, leave my country. But let me just tell you a little bit about myself. When I was in school, some of my colleagues had ambitions to get educated and get out of, live out of the country. I'll be very honest with you, at a tender age of about 16 years or so, when I just completed my grade 12, I had no ambition whatsoever of living, staying outside Zambia. And that still remains my conviction to date. But I found myself at a point where I had to make a decision, either to lose my life by wanting to stay in Zambia, or indeed leave Zambia and save my life. And we had to make that decision. So in connecting to governance, I think that The message really is that citizens must not take anything for granted. Matters of governance. Matters of governance, you know, when we used to speak, people say, Wamulipila Zingati, who is the sponsor, who is bankrolling him? No. Matters of governance affect all of us because, comrade, in a twinkling of an eye, you can find yourself a refugee, you can find yourself dead, you can find yourself without an uncle, without a father, and we have seen all this. Why? Because of political processes. We have seen parents lose their children because of political processes. It is not on until it happens to you that you feel, oh, okay, so this is how serious these things are. When they are happening to another person, just like when we see our friends from Rwanda, Burundi, but these things, comrade, can happen to anyone if the governance of the country is not put correctly. And this is why every single Zambian citizen must take interest, first of all, in their country. Regardless of who is there, there's PF, there's UPND, those are secondary. They come and go. Like now PF has come, PF is gone. Mark my words, mark this day, PF is gone for good. UPND will come. We don't know what is going to happen in the next 10 years. In fact, 10 is long. In the next 5 years, we don't know what's going to happen. But Zambia remains. So every citizen has a duty to God, to themselves, and to the family to love this country above anybody and anything else. And that is what we are committed to do.
Yes, the new administration has come with the aspect of upholding the rule of law, as well as ensuring that law enforcement, there's no interference in as far as law enforcement is concerned. I want to get your aspect. Do you think the Zambia police is doing enough to help our government in terms of ensuring that that is really achieved, Mr. Piri?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You see, so let's start this discussion from this premise. There are two things: systems and people to run the systems. So you can have the best of systems anywhere, in an organization, at a workplace, in the country, but those systems will not implement themselves. Systems require people to implement, human beings. Human beings sometimes need systems to control them because we have excesses, we have selfish motives, we have wrong way of interpreting things, we have wrong perceptions. So systems and people should work in a symbiotic manner. Now, coming to your question, Zambia has got the elaborate systems in place. If you talk about the Zambia Police Service, the job description for the Zambia Police Service is provided for in the Constitution. You know, the Act Amendment number 2 of 2016 should be Article 193, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't see that question coming, so I didn't prepare, but I think it's 193. Protecting life and property.
Yes.
Keeping public order and peace. Upholding the Bill of Rights. And all the other, there are about 6 job things they are given. And then you have the Police Act to operationalize that. That is a system. So the system is clear. But what is not clear? The Zambia Police Service also has officers that are very good, but it also has officers that are very bad. Unfortunately, even if the bad officers are fewer than the good officers, shawa emozi kaola mkamwa ngati majaziri 10 zonse ziri 10 zishe banji zivululiyo. The Zambia Police Service we are seeing today under the new dawn is not any different from the Zambia Police Service that you are seeing in the Patriotic Front. And I know immediately someone will say, but look, they escorted user students without any halabalu. Yes, they did that because that one was a public procession.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the president would not, you see, President HH is just out of this world. He's a different individual altogether. I hope one day I can come here and talk a little bit more about my experiences with him. But he's just from a different planet. So they knew they would not adopt that. But why am I saying they're not helping? On Saturday, I got very disturbing news in Monze.
Before you go that, Mr. Piri, in fact, that's the gist of our discussion. because I wanted us to just expand a little bit on that subject. So we'll go to that clip regarding that same story, so that we just expand a little bit, so that you explain to us just your thoughts, because that's something that we also as a station took an interest to report on.
The third quarter 2021 crime statistics for the period July to September 2021 has indicated that there has been a rise in criminal cases by 3.08% countrywide. Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says the service recorded 14,569 criminal cases countrywide during the period under review, as compared to 14,119 cases recorded under the same period in the year 2020. On the other hand, the report has also indicated that a total value of property stolen in the third quarter of 2021 is worth over 89 million kwacha, as compared to over 111 million kwacha stolen under the same period in the year 2020, representing a 21.32% reduction.
The total value of the property stolen in the third quarter of 2021 is 87,817,906, as compared to 111,617,367 of stolen under the same period in the year 2020.
Meanwhile, a human rights advocate, Christopher Shalwabana, has attributed the rise in criminal activities to lack of productivity among the citizens, who in most cases get entangled in criminal activities.
To me, it really gives a very sad reading, as you are aware that as a country you cannot develop, or rather you cannot prosper when you've got a lot of increase in the number of criminal cases in the country. One, they give a very bad picture when it comes to the issue of good governance system in the country. There is also some sort of breakdown in the rule of law.
While Lusaka province recorded the highest number of criminal cases seconded by the Copper Belt, Mr. Shalwabana says the increase in criminal activities in the two provinces can be attributed to overpopulation.
I was of the view that perhaps we had the elections recently. It could be the reasons why we have had a lot of criminal cases reported in this country. So in near future, we are urging the Zambia Police Service not to just keep on waiting for members of the public to come and report cases that are criminal in nature, but rather should use their detectives to ensure that these cases are detected before they are reported to the various police stations.
While the report has indicated that a total of 7,633 arrests were made, many young people have ended up wasting their lives by engaging in criminal activities, which has landed them in police custody. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Political violence is not new to Zambia, especially during the election period. In the last 10 years, Zambia witnessed high levels of political violence perpetrated against those expressing views contrary to those held by the Patriotic Front government. This was among the many reasons why Zambians decided to vote out the PF during the August 12 general election. Maintaining law and order by the police also became impossible due to political interference, but with the new administration coming into office under the UPND, the assurance of restoring law and order by the head of state signified hope for professional police service and an end to political violence. However, pockets of political violence are still being witnessed, with the recent being in Monze, where former UPND Monze urban councillor Bomba Pandwe was attacked by known people from the UPND Saturday night.
And Muriranduba pulled me or pushed me, saying I should not be talking to their commander as they had put it. So I was trying to engage them to say I did not follow them or was not talking to them. I started receiving punches, and then other cadres joined in saying no, go pusa.
The matter was reported to the police, but it has not received the necessary attention, according to human rights activist Nicholas Piri.
We are appalled by the manner in which a named person in Mose district was brutally assaulted by alleged UPND cadres, and up to now no arrest has been made. In the past, the police had an excuse to the fact that they did not have political will in order for them to operate professionally. But now the president has made it very clear that violence will not be allowed It doesn't matter who is perpetrating it. And of course, violence, political violence is a criminal offense. And so we wonder why it is taking so long for the police to conclude the investigations and make arrests of the people that were involved in that particular issue. We ensure sooner rather than later that the president is encouraging, upholding the law with the left hand, and with the right hand, he's, tolerating violence because the police are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we think that it's time for the Inspector General of Police to end his honeymoon, come to the party, and nip this political violence in the bud.
When contacted for a comment, police spokesperson Ray Amonga says the police had not received the medical report from the victim until Wednesday, 10th November 2021.
If you are following up, what happened was that, when you are assaulted, you are given a medical form, a police medical form, and be examined by a medical doctor who's supposed to sign it, and then you bring it back to the police. And that's when you are supposed to call persons that are alleged to have assaulted you. So what happened is this person had not brought back the medical form, but today he brought it back. So at the time I was talking to our officers, they were in the process of doing the test.
But Mr. Pandwe, former UPND councillor, now Patriotic Front member, argues that a medical report was delivered and received by the police on Monday, 8th November 2021.
I took the medical report on Monday, the 8th of November at 16 hours. The docket was opened and the medical report was handed over. Those are the things that I was advised to take that side. I took them, I handed them over. So it is not true that I've taken the medical report today. I've been quiet, giving them time to work on the case, because I believe that policemen are professionals.
President Hakainde Hichilema, among many other UPND officials, are on record denouncing political violence and promoting the rule of law. For now, we wait and see how the story unfolds. Patrick Soko, Camnet News. Well, sad story there, Mr. Piri. I think that story speaks for itself.
Yeah.
But I want to pick your thoughts on that because I should assume this is not the only case where there is no action.
Precisely. Precisely. This is not the only case of political violence. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time we were engaging on a named platform. And I even said, this thing of the police saying that alleged UPND cadres, alleged this, why are we continuing to mask political violence under, a political party? But that is a minor issue. You see, the main issue is this. The Patriotic Front was voted out of office for several reasons, but two key ones were economic mismanagement, okay, maybe three, corruption, and then political violence. Now, here's the issue. Citizens always related political violence to the presidency. Does it mean that President Lungu openly told the police to say, go and beat people? No. President Lungu was actually on record on a few occasions saying the police must deal with political violence. President Lungu has been on record. He was on record. But political violence continued. And then Zambia's conclusion was that in public, President Lungu says stop violence. Umbali, he's encouraging them kuti ramenyen. And so they passed a very harsh verdict. Today, President HH has come out very clearly, unambiguously, categorical, no political violence. It doesn't matter who is perpetrating it. The same way, okay, President Lungu was not as clear as the HH is, but HH has come out. Political violence is continuing. You know what is going to happen? Mm-hmm. The same narrative we accused Walungu, Kuti, with the right hand is condemning violence, with the left is facilitating it, the same will come to haunt HH. And it is at this point that I come back to your question, is the police doing enough? No. Why? Because there are elements in there within the Zambia Police Service who, in our view, in our opinion, are still very suspicious elements that are not supposed to be in the service. I know that President HH is very accommodating and very friendly, but Mr. Soko, this is African politics, but this is also human relations. You see, in human relations, forgiveness, to forgive you, does not mean that now, anytime you can come with my house and enter into my bedroom. You can come kunyumba kwa tumaba, I'm so hurt now, police. We discuss, I forgive you, then I say, okay, I'll not take you to court. I don't feel any bad feelings about you, but I'll not allow you to come back home again. It doesn't mean that nakuzonda. So I'm very wary with the way this administration is handling people that committed crimes in the police service, and they're still there. You see, Ray Hamonga is a public relations officer. The role of public relations is to project a positive image, even when there's no image to protect. So now, Ray is telling us that the police had not received the report. Pandwe is telling us he took the report to police on Monday and it was received on Monday. Who should we believe? So again, I challenge Camnet, because Camnet has taken interest in this issue. When the police issues a report, or when the doctor issues a medical report, and it is taken to the police, it is stamped by the police. And you get the date stamp, the date there. So let's know, the nation deserves to know who is lying. Is it Pandwe or the police? If it is the police, then our theory and our fears are justified that probably this command, this administration, needs to do a little bit more than what they have done to ensure that their rhetoric of the police being a service comes to fruition. Otherwise, there is a potential that these good intentions will be frustrated by things like this, where a citizen says, when napeleka pa mani, then the police says, no, napeleka pa Wednesday. At the end of the day, it is this citizen whose vote you are going to want. And if you didn't listen to them, if you didn't pay attention to the situation they were put in by the police, you as the president will get punished. So I think that to answer your question, Inspector General Kajoba can still do a little bit more to restore the confidence of citizens in the Zambia Police Service, because I had completely no respect whatsoever for the Zambia Police Service. I had respect for individual officers. For the Zambia Police Service, no, because you see what had happened during the previous regime, there was a cartel of criminals in the Zambia Police Service, and then there was the proper Zambia Police Service. So towards elections, the proper Zambia Police Service stopped functioning. They became hopeless. This cartel took over everything, all the operations. So they would carry operations where sometimes even the Commissioner of Police in a specified jurisdiction does not know. He only comes to know 3 hours after an operation has been carried out. We had seen that. And these criminal elements are still in the same Zambia Police. And you want to sit there and say we have reconciled them being meticulous and all these methodical and thing ways. We are here to watch.
Interesting. Well, now, Mr. Pitt, but what sort of commitment do we need as a country to ensure that we take these issues to do with human rights? One other thing people don't realize, I think, Mr. Pitt, you bear with me, is that you agree with me that it is that people don't understand that everything borders on human rights.
Precisely.
Every other subject borders on human rights. And if we get that right, I think society probably can normalize.
Precisely.
And what sort of reforms should we undertake as a country to actualize that aspect?
Well, I think I already talked about the cleansing of the police. Why is the cleansing important? Because every violation of a right must seem to be punished and not rewarded. I want to repeat that. Every violation of a human right must be punished and not rewarded.
Let me just take that one. Hello, you are through to Camnet TV.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your names and where you're calling us from?
Mr. Banda calling from within Lusaka.
Mr. Banda, you can go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I want to comment on this issue of political violence. I think we are always talking about blaming everything on the president. We should understand the division of labor. That's why we have the police. So if there's political violence, that's the job of the police. So let's not transfer the issues to the office of the president or the president, because we are missing the point. I think let's tackle the issue. Political violence is there, and the police must be taken to task. We should not always, everything in Zambia, we want to involve the president. That's why you have the Minister of Defense, you have the Minister of Home Affairs, you have the police. So let those people take up that responsibility. If they're not doing their job, we must tell them, we must call a spade a spade. But what is happening is that every issue, you want to involve the president. When you have citizens, people are employed to do those things, take up that responsibility. Because the responsibility of political violence cannot be sorted out by the Zambia police. So let's take the Zambia police charge. Let's not transfer the responsibility of Zambia police to the office of the president. Please. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Piri, you can take that one as you explained.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more with him. I think we are speaking the same thing. That,
yes.
The Zambia Police Service must come to the table. But also what we are saying is that if the Zambia Police Service fails to sort out this issue, then the buck will stop at the president. And so we are basically speaking the same thing. But I was saying that every violation of a right must be punished and not rewarded. What we are doing is the opposite. So you are saying, what reforms should we do? We should not do any reforms because we already have enough laws. And our laws, by the way, are aligned to the international conventions. The Convention Against Torture, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is a parent of all these other human rights instruments, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the International Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Our laws are aligned to all those. So we don't need any more laws. What we need now is what happened to the killer of Joseph Kaunda? What happened to the person who told that officer to pull the trigger? Because officers don't pull the trigger on their own. What happened to the killer of Vespas? What happened to the killer of Mugala? What happened to the killer of Mapes? What happened? I can mention names this morning, but I don't want to dampen people's spirits. My whole point is, if the state is the one in the forefront of shielding violators of human rights, then you are rewarding violators of human rights. So it is okay for the police officer, for me as a police officer, to use excessive force that can even result into the loss of life or permanent injury to a citizen, because after all, I'm going to be rewarded for doing that. So the starting point, I think, for this administration is to ensure that every person that has violated, especially the rights to life of a citizen, is punished according to our laws. And our laws, if a conviction is secured, you are subjected to life imprisonment. Of course, there's the capital, capital punishment of death by hanging, which I don't subscribe to. But as our laws are today, that is what the law is. So I think, Comrade Soko, we need to start by punishing the violators of human rights and not rewarding them the way we have been doing it all along. And I'm afraid I'm seeing the same trend that we are rewarding them, because up to now, maybe you, the media, are privy to the report that President Edgar Lungu demanded in public from the Inspector General of Police on what happened to our comrades Kaunda and the other person who was killed in cold blood. We don't know those details. What are they hiding? Sending my politicians mnadosa foot. Manje mubisa chani. What is it that you don't want the public to know about what happened? This is the rewarding I'm talking about. So I think we need to, and you see, any one of us, including the children of politicians, can be victims to these violations of human rights. And this is why we must punish violation of human rights and not reward it.
Thank you very much. Well, I would have loved to continue discussing this topic with Mr. Piri. Unfortunately, we have come at that time of the day when we have to say bye-bye to our viewers. We've been watching the Camnet Breakfast. I've been Patrick Soko. Until next time when we come with another interesting edition of the Camnet Breakfast as we line up some of the interesting topic of discussion happening in as far as national governance is concerned. Stay tuned to Camnet TV.